Welcome to another episode of the Silman Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Battisto. Today's guest is Chris Ayres, Stanford head wrestling coach. Stanford just came off of a pretty impressive performance at the Cliff Keen Invitational. Very excited to have him on and to share this conversation with you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the show. I appreciate you taking the time. I can't imagine how busy you got to be.
Oh man, it's been chaos, honestly, and I apologize for not getting on that one time, but I literally I was hanging on by a thread in the beginning. The timing was just terrible. I tell people if it were January, it would have been better, but to come in right at the beginning of the semester, there's two recruiting classes, the one that's coming in, and then there's another one that we're working on. So it was difficult, but we got through it, and here we are now.
Yeah, I feel like just trying to get like the lay of the land while also simultaneously doing all the other
Yeah,
things you're supposed to be doing. Just because the
yeah,
season, I think it almost started like right before you came in.
yeah, for sure. Are we recording now? Is this like part of the podcast?
Yeah, this is gonna be it. We're
Okay,
if you're
cool.
cool with that,
Yeah, no,
like
that's cool. I didn't know if we started yet, but yeah, that's all good.
Shoot
So,
from the hip
yeah,
around here.
that's what I do too. So, yeah, there was a lot going on. So, I was transitioning from an old coach. The transition was pretty quick. And again, timing was tough. Um, it was funny. I'd go into practice. I literally had my phone with the roster because I didn't know everybody. So I'd be like, oh, who's this guy? And I'd be flipping through my phone, pretend I'm looking at text message, but I didn't know the guy's name. So it was difficult. And then too, it's like you got to keep these guys because transitions now are pretty tough, especially when the timing was guys will leave the program if they don't feel good about who the coach is. So, coming in, it was like just a lot of damage control in terms of just keeping guys both. Nowadays we're recruiting two classes. So there's like the junior class and then there's the seniors who are already committed. So making sure they're all on board. But really, the first thing was making sure the team was on board with me. Um, as soon as I knew I got the job, I flew out in August, like immediately. Like they said, you have the job, and I was like, I'm coming because there were some guys here, not a ton, not everybody, but I just wanted to watch practice. I wanted them to see me. I want to talk to a few guys, so I did that. And then it's kind of weird. Stanford goes, I do that a lot. I say Princeton, then I say Stanford. It's the transition's difficult, but so Stanford's kind of weird. It goes in these quarter systems. It's not semesters. So their quarter started a little late. It was like September, let's say 23rd. So I had gone home. I'd done some recruiting. Then I came back and the kids came back and we basically started practice right away. So they were awesome, honestly. I met with them quite a bit and then just sort of running practice and stuff. They really accepted me right away. And so that was a big part of the transition being pretty easy for me. That was actually the easiest part of the transition. I joke with people like from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, everything was like perfect. The team was great, as you saw from CKLV. The training was
Yeah.
good. The training was great. All the time, all the hours after and between 3 and 6 were just pure chaos. Literally, so I came in August, like I said, and then I went home for a little bit and I was recruiting, and then I came back in September. We just got out of our last box Thanksgiving weekend, so we're totally settled in. It took a long time, but we're good now.
awesome. When you moved, I know you posted on Twitter that you were pretty excited about having a palm tree in your backyard.
Yeah.
Now it's been a minute, and Carlo actually used to
Yeah.
have one in his backyard. He's not really a big fan just because it kind of makes a mess. Are
Yeah.
you still excited about the palm tree?
I love it every day. I wake up, I look out my back door. There's a palm tree. It hasn't lost its novelty yet. I'm still into it. I get pretty pumped about it. If it were light out right now, I would definitely be doing the podcast out there with the palm tree in the background. So yeah, there's so many great things about living in the area, and obviously everyone talks about it. The weather is just awesome. It's a little weird for me, I will say. Like, it doesn't feel like wrestling season. I know we were headed into our Duke duel, and like it didn't hit me like until like 2 days before that we were like in the NCAA season because back home, the leaves change. There's actually a smell of wrestling season. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like the decay or something of fall. The winds, it gets pretty cold pretty quickly. And that just didn't happen here. So I'm kind of getting used to that, like the fact that it's Christmas. So I go to the supermarket and they're playing Christmas music, but I just was outside and it was like 70 degrees. I go and I'm like, oh my God, that's right. It's Christmas in Palo Alto. So yeah, so that's been a little different, but I love it. I mean, obviously that's a huge perk is sort of living in such a great climate. But yeah, I love the palm tree.
Yeah, I feel like so I lived in Illinois until I was in seventh grade, and then I moved to Santa Cruz, which is about maybe
Yeah.
45 minutes south of Palo
Yeah.
Alto, and yeah, it was like the same thing. I'm like outside in shorts. I'm like wearing shorts to the tournament. Like
Yeah.
this is weird.
That's so
Go out
weird.
to shovel snow. Like I'm not
Yeah.
wearing really like any heavy clothes on. It definitely throws you off. But I feel like you're somebody that has such like a very outgoing, like happy go lucky personality, or at least that's your reputation.
Yeah.
I feel like when you put yourself in the like a different weather where it's just nice all the time, I don't know. I feel like at least for me, it affects my mood. I'm not sure how it affects
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah, I kind of choose my mood. I'll be honest. Like I'm pretty happy wherever I am. But it's pretty easy to be happy here. Just you walk out every day and it's like the same weather. And then to be honest, like I mean, I can't lie. I stepped into a great team. These guys are awesome. Again, it's very similar to the Princeton guys. Very smart. People ask me all the time, like when you're recruiting, like what kind of character do you look for? I'm like, I don't have to. I'm like, they have this transcript that's pretty much perfect taking AP classes. We don't get many guys that are just not good people. I mean, both at Princeton and here, they're just great kids, honestly, all around. They're trying to be the best they can be in academics and they want to do big things in life. And then they're trying to be the best in wrestling too. So, my days are pretty awesome just because I get to see those guys and work with them and the results have been great so far. And just also, it's all about people at the end of the day. Pat Bruck, my assistant coach, Pat Bruck, he drove me home tonight and he's new to coaching. And I put my car to the shop. So, and we were just talking. I said, it's just all about people, no matter how you cut it. Like if you're talking about fundraising, it's about people. If you're talking about recruiting, it's about people. And when you get into Palo Alto and really the Bay Area, that's what really attracted me about this job is just I did a lot of research, I did a lot of homework about just the area and if there was the potential to like get other people other than Stanford alumni interested in the program. And the fact is there's a hunger here for wrestling. There really is. And it's amazing to me coming from New Jersey, like even the youth wrestling infrastructure isn't set up. It's kind of strange in terms of like there's not like this sort of you're in this youth league where we teach you wrestling in winter and you go wrestle some matches in this youth league and sometimes you wrestle for a school, sometimes you wrestle for a club. That doesn't really exist. And that was a big part of my upbringing in New Jersey. And so that's something I'd like to, I'm kind of going off the rails here a little bit, but I just think wrestling could be a lot bigger than it is in the area. And I think there's a lot of people that want it to be great. And so, and I just, I knew that just coming in, just doing my research. And so that's a big part of us being here, my wife and I, is sort of just trying to impact wrestling on all levels, not just Stanford wrestling. And I think there's a huge opportunity.
Yeah,
The
for
the
sure.
club scene in New Jersey is pretty big, right? Like it is a relevant scene. Um, I mean, I don't know too much, but just listening on YouTube and Flow Wrestling, it seems like the club scene for wrestling in New Jersey is almost like a job. You don't
Yeah.
get a lot of that hardly at all. I mean, there's a couple of clubs in the Valley that Brian and I think we kind of know the coaches there, and it seems like that's their main job. Other than that, I'm not sure if that's a thing anywhere else in California.
So yeah, I wouldn't say a misconception. There's so many clubs in New Jersey and they're all side hustles, honestly. There's a couple that are very good, but most of them are side hustles. They have full-time jobs because it's just there's so many clubs that kids have so many choices. So they bounce around a lot. There's not a lot of continuity. There's probably three or so that are just consistently bringing in a lot of people. Other than that, it's just a lot of kids bouncing around. So there's just a lot of clubs, but it's not that idea that you can come to Jersey and start a club and make it big. There's nothing like that. For every guy, it's a side hustle. But I will say the club scene in New Jersey made Jersey wrestling what it is now. There was just a lot of really good guys who started clubs, and really our kids had access to early on, back before like the flow and before you could watch technique on the computer. These clubs were doing those things, and so I think that's what advanced Jersey pretty quickly to be one of the better states, despite its size. But yeah, so clubs are interesting in New Jersey. It's a competition. A lot of them come up and they go away, but there's some consistent players all the time.
Yeah, I think just in the Bay Area, I mean, I think there's a good handful of just really solid clubs like Barrier Dragons with Greg Varela,
Yeah.
Daniel McCoon, and Eric Deuce with Sunnyvale Wrestling Club. I wrestled for that club a little bit, so I should know it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's good just because I think having a strong Division I program in that area is just going to be a place where it's almost like neutral territory. Like, hey, let's just go train at the RTC together. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you've seen and you've dealt with it. Like it's just across, I think, just all sports and all professions. You have the ego mix, and especially with kids are bouncing from place to place to place. It's maybe hard sometimes for people to let their guard down, but having a strong RTC, I think, is great, and it's a good way to, I think, just pull everybody in the area together and get them working together.
And that's the goal. I mean, for us, we're a threat though. In New Jersey, we were a threat, the NJRTC, just because it was free. So it was like
Yeah,
free. It was free for the best kids, and we were running it. So you had college coaches running it, and so like the club coaches got a little like you know they were a little, I wouldn't say upset, but we were a threat to them. So
You're
it's
cutting
kind
on
of a
their
funny.
territory.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like we were like, they were charging money. We were free. We were a
yeah,
D1 program. Um, and we didn't want it to be that way. And the same thing with Stanford. It's not like we're trying to, we're trying to pull in the club coaches actually to like make the community stronger, to give them like, say, we don't want to take anybody's business. We just want to make sure that kids have the opportunity to get the best training situation took place at Fargo, and obviously there's a recruiting implications there as well for us. So the RTCs are pretty interesting in terms of we got to be careful a little bit that we want to create good relationships in the area where we don't want to steal anyone. That's not the goal. We just want to enhance wrestling in the Bay Area for sure. And so yeah, so that's like always a delicate balance where we can be viewed as a threat when we're really not trying to be a threat.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you're just trying to build wrestling in that area. I remember I watched an interview. It might have been a couple years ago now, maybe with Flo, and they were talking about just how do you build Princeton into a powerhouse. And I think one of the things you said was you want to get cauliflower ears in the Starbucks.
Yeah,
Is
that's the
that is
same
that
thing.
the same
Yeah,
goal?
yeah. So it's funny that you say that because I would say crazy shit and sorry for the language, but I
It's
had
okay.
crazy ideas about Princeton. Princeton was very similar to Palo Alto in terms of it was a very high end town. Most of the houses are over $1 million, and there's a train right to the city. You got a lot of investment bankers. You got a lot of the faculty. So it's not a blue collar town at all. And I came in and I said that exact thing. I said I want to make Princeton a wrestling town, and I want more cauliflower ear and Starbucks. And people would be like, "You're crazy," but like the fact of the matter is, we did it. I mean, we went from, I swear to God, this is no joke. There were matches in my first 2 years where there were maybe 6 people in the stands. Like parents wouldn't even come to the matches. Um, and so to the point of where we were when I left is we were a ticketed sport, one of only 5. Um, we were in the top 10 for attendance. We were over 1,000 averaged in 2000, I think it was. And so what happened was we did it. And how we did it was community, 100%, which is what I think is good about the Bay Area. I just see a lot of opportunity to create a bigger wrestling community in the area, both on the men's and women's side. My wife is huge into the women. The women might actually be the better opportunity, to be honest with you, in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
agree.
they're literally showing up in droves now to our club, and but that's the goal, and so how it happened was we ran the youth club. So we ran the youth club for the town out of our room. And it was pretty good when I got there. That was already going. They had these, dads were running it, but they were brain surgeons. They ran hedge funds. They were lawyers. These people were smart and they wrestled. So the organization of this thing was amazing. And over time, what happened was we grew it. Before COVID, we had about 100 kids in the club, just a youth club. And so it went back down during COVID. We did some covert operations. I can say that now because I don't really care anymore. So we did some covert operations to keep the kids wrestling at other places, but the numbers went down, but they're back up again. That was huge. I didn't realize it because I was there for 17 years, but every family that was in the youth club became a fan of Princeton wrestling.
Yeah.
And so after their kids had been done with youth wrestling, they still came to the matches. They brought their aunts and uncles and so it really became a town thing where we were one of Princeton, people don't know this, Princeton's very good at athletics, D1. They placed very high in the Directors Cup. But we were one of the most well-attended sports by the end. Like we had switched gyms. We were in this high school gym. We moved to Jadwin, which was huge. We were bringing in well over 1,000 people a match. It was ticketed. So that's kind of the vision here. I think there's more potential though, just because I think in the Bay Area, I just met with an alum. And he says to me, he goes, in the Bay Area, there's more people than there are in New Jersey, just because it's so dense. And I was like, well, hey, I'm big on the numbers game. I think like, hey, we make some fans, we could fill the stand. So yeah, I mean, it's the cauliflower ear in Starbucks. That's a fact. It's the same sort of situation here in terms of this is a very wealthy area, but people need wrestling, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like wrestling, if we're going to talk about wrestling, so I wouldn't have went to college if I didn't wrestle. I wouldn't be sitting where I am right now if I didn't wrestle. I'd be working construction, to be perfectly honest with you. That was the path that I was on. My parents didn't go to college. And so, we talk about the blue collar kid that needs wrestling. These rich kids need wrestling, man. They need to get tough. And so there's a whole other side of this game where there's opportunity for these kids to get a little blue collar action and to get roughed up and learn how to fight. And I think that's a good thing. So I think there's another angle to wrestling that we've not seen before. And that's kind of the affluent group. And I know the people that come to our club, they're affluent and they love this. They love that their kids are struggling. They love that their kids have to fight. They love that their kids don't know a darn thing and they have to fight through this process to figure out wrestling. And they see the benefit of it. I love that. And I think wrestling benefits everyone. So sorry for that tangent, but
No.
that's kind of how I view what we can offer the community basically is wrestling and what it can do for an individual.
For sure. And I think, people forget sometimes like wrestling is synonymous with struggle, and I think, especially in an area like the Bay where, there is a lot of money, but there's also a lot of poverty too.
Mhm.
And I think, maybe wrestling is something that can kind of tie those worlds together. I'm from Santa Cruz area. And the first college dual meet I went to was Stanford. Stanford wrestled Northwestern. And I remember Ryan Mango doing some kind of flip and putting a guy on his head. And I'm like, dude, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was maybe like you, where I wasn't really planning on going to college. I was a smart kid that just didn't really care. And I saw a Stanford wrestling meet. And I'm like, dude, I need to figure this out because I want to come wrestle here. And, ended up wrestling at Stanford. My grades weren't quite good enough, but, I did wrestle in college. It was pretty cool. But do you think so? I know. So you wrestled at Lehigh. When you made that transition from, when you were in high school to college, was it something that, you made that transition pretty easily? Like, okay, I can deal with the school thing, or was it something to where I'm just going to just do enough to kind of like get by?
Man, you bring up that's a great question. It brings me back. When I was a freshman in college, I literally just got punched in the face as hard as you could get punched in the face from every single angle. So I really wasn't prepared academically. Lehigh is a great school. It's a hard school. It's an engineering school. And I didn't place in states either. I don't know if you know my background, but I didn't place in states. I was pretty average. but I believed in myself, and I got better as I went on. But so I did terrible in school to start, and the problem was like it was all. I think a lot of people can relate to this. It was all about effort. I wanted to wrestle. I didn't really want to do school. And then when you get to college, you have a choice. You can go to class or you don't have to. Like the teacher really doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's not like you're in high school where you're going to be in school all day. So my first year, I missed a lot of classes. I was getting killed in wrestling. I mean, I don't know. Back then, it was harder to make the transition. Like kids today, they're so much better. Um, when they enter college than I was back in 1994. And so, I was just getting killed. The guys were killing me in the room. School, I wasn't doing the right things. And you sort of hit rock bottom, right? So I can remember this vividly. So it happened through wrestling, actually, where I got my act together. So I was in a practice. I tell the story all the time to my guys. So I was in a practice, and I probably hadn't gotten a takedown in a month, and I'm wrestling the captain. And I'm wrestling the captain in a long go, 10 minutes, and I throw him at the end of the go, and I put him on his back. And I'm feeling so good about myself. Like I finished the go, and I'm like, I'm in heaven. I finally did something good. I finally did something good in the wrestling room. So I walk out to the water fountain. I'm getting a drink, and I'm looking for another freshman to go with right now because I'm like, I'm flying high. I want to go with a freshman that I can at least hang with a little bit. So I go home and I feel good when I eat dinner. And I didn't just get killed all day. I got this takedown on the senior captain. So I talked to this kid, Dan, who's a freshman. I said, hey, I remember this so vividly, right by the water fountain. I said, hey, you want to go next go? He's so happy that I'm asking him to go because he's a freshman too. So he doesn't have to get killed by we had a really good team. We had a lot of All-Americans as well at that time. So yeah, I'm like, Dan, and as I'm talking to Dan, I feel this little tap on my shoulder, tap, tap, tap. So I turn around, I look, it's the senior that I threw. And we have another long go, 10 or 15 minutes. And he goes, who are you going with? I said, I'll go with Dan over here. We're going to go, He goes, no, you're not. You're going with me. So I swear to you, in 10 or 15 minutes, I was probably pinned 15 times. I mean, fighting for my life. I'm getting pinned. I'm getting thrown. I mean, he's torturing me. Like a UFC referee would have came in and stopped the wrestling match and, said like, this guy is done. He would have jumped in and so I remember I was walking back to my dorm. I shower and I'm in tears and I'm going to quit. I'm like, I can't do this. This is like I'm just getting killed. I don't belong here. And something in my head goes, no, it's about fight. Like that was it. Like in that moment, I learned how to fight. I was like, and I said to myself, it's pretty funny. I said to myself, it's like, I don't know if you've ever had these moments. It's not like everyone thinks it's like this natural trajectory of like, you steadily get better. Like in that moment, I made a huge jump because I said to myself, I don't care what happens to me. I can lose every other match that I ever wrestle, but I will never, ever quit. I will fight to the death. I will never act like I did because the guy broke me. He was flipping me around. I quit. I was feeling bad for myself, and that's why I got my butt kicked. Really, is because I just didn't fight. So in that moment, like everything changed for me, to be honest with you. And from that moment, school wise too, I got my act together. I was stopped being a dumbass. But it's funny how you have those moments in wrestling that can be so humbling that really shift your mindset. And either you either react in a positive way or you go down in a negative way. And in that moment, I was so close. I mean, I wouldn't have finished school if I went down the path of quitting. I wouldn't have finished school. I wouldn't have wrestled. I don't know where I'd be right now. So just in that one moment, I remember that I made this huge jump. So I was getting killed to be honest with you. But it was my choice. It was self-inflicted. Like school doing bad and then wrestling. Wrestling's a little different. You have less control because I needed that shift in mindset, but school was totally so yeah, I was getting killed all over until I had that moment.
You gotta send the captain a Christmas card.
What's that?
You gotta send that captain a Christmas card.
Yeah, no. So I talk to him about it all the time. He actually coached at Rutgers. He's a good friend. So
All right.
and his son is wrestling in New Jersey now too. So I'd see him at matches, and so we don't need to talk about it because I told him about it like 10 times. But he knows in his head that he made me what I am just because he kicked
Yeah.
my ass. so
No, that's
once in
great.
a while,
That's
he'll remind me of that.
Yeah, I mean those tough times. I mean, I think like I've had them obviously as a wrestler, but even just in life in general, it's like there's nothing that prepares you quite for everything else in your life than experience those tough moments where it's like, dude, I'm not even sure if 100% if I really want to do this, and then for some reason, like whether it's an inner voice or just habit or whatever, you kind of just stick it out. And then sometimes, yeah, you have those maybe moments of self-reflection, like, dude, this can't happen ever again. I need to fight. I need to stick it out. And that's why, again, that's why wrestling is so important.
I've had too many of those lessons. So when I started at Princeton, we were 0-35 my first 2 years, and I somehow stuck it out. So I don't know. I'm just maybe a glutton for punishment, I
Yeah.
guess.
So when you made that transition into coaching, was Strobel, was he your head coach when you were a
Yeah.
competitor as well?
So
What was that process like?
Yeah, so I had 3 coaches. So the coach that was there when I was being recruited was Tom Hutchinson. And so he recruited me to Lehigh. I went to Lehigh because Sergey Beloglazov was the coach. And I was infatuated with Sergey. So he was one of the best wrestlers ever, multiple time world and Olympic champion. He's definitely the best technician that's ever lived. It's to me, it's not even a question. Maybe Satiev's close, but so I was like obsessed with this guy Sergey Beloglazov. So that's why I went to Lehigh. So funny thing is, so I get recruited to Lehigh, get into Lehigh. Sergey and Hutch leave. So now the assistant Latessa, Bob Latessa from Ohio, he was awesome. So now he's the head coach. This is a crazy story. So he's the head coach. I'm redshirting. I have a great relationship with him. The good thing is Pat Santoro's there too. So he was like my consistent person the whole time, and he was right around my weight. So I had Pat the whole time, who's now the head coach at Lehigh. So then at the end of Bob's the year with us, he's interim. That we win Easterns actually. So I'm not on the team though. I'm redshirt, and we win. And then they decide to go a different direction, which is crazy. So the team's like pissed and like we're like, what are you talking about? You're going a different direction. But they hire Strobel. And so I think I would have done great with Latessa. He's an amazing coach, but Strobel was very good for me too. So I was coached by Strobel. Uh, like I said earlier, I didn't place in high school. And that was mostly because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Strobel kind of showed me the way. Basically, in high school, I overtrained. So in my mind, I thought to be a state champion, you had to do this insane amount of work, like wake up in the morning before school. You had to cut like 3 weight classes and, all this crazy stuff. But then I had a weird experience where I went to Blair for a PG year, which is a post grad year. So basically, I did 12th grade over again. And back in those days, we had a whole PG team and we were good. Like we would beat college teams. But on that PG team were a bunch of guys who placed in the state and won the state tournament in New Jersey. There was probably 20 of us. And I'd say, I had the worst accolades on the team. But what happened is I saw these state champs and stuff, and I saw how they worked. And I was like, these guys don't work that hard. I was like, this is crazy. So that combined with Strobel, because Strobel taught me how to taper. So he would say like, okay, we're going to pull back before the big competition, where in high school, I thought you were supposed to like kill yourself right before like districts. So I went into every end of the year in high school, overtrained, run down, but he kind of managed me well. So he was a blessing for me. And then coaching wise, he was the best mentor that you could have. He really made Lehigh. He had the best finishes ever for Lehigh. We were third, and I was an assistant there when we were the best. So we were third, we were fourth, we were fifth, we were ninth. So we got trophies in my years coaching there. So he's probably the biggest influence on my life in relation to coaching and what he did. And a lot of the things that he did, I do with the team here now. So, his legacy lived. He passed away, unfortunately, too early. But what I love about coaching is you never pass away. His coach taught him lessons that taught me lessons He's passed away. I'm teaching his coach's lessons basically because he gave them to me. So it's pretty cool about a coaching lineage, what happens. But yeah, I use a lot of what he taught me for sure.
Yeah, I think what's kind of special now, and I don't know if you remember this, but I dropped the Veritas bomb on you at World
Oh,
Challenge. I brought that
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. That's
What's
funny.
interesting is like, you have this
Yeah,
coaching tree and it's kind of always followed this traditional route where it's like, you have to kind of be around somebody to kind of learn some of those lessons. I I watched Veritas when I was a sophomore in high school, and I saw Strobel, I saw you, and then again, one of the things that kind of stuck out to me was what you told Trench when he was thinking about not, wrestling in the rest of the senior year. It's like, dude, like don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like even if you don't place, as long as you have like a good effort and a good attitude, like you'll feel good about what you didn't do.
yeah.
And I didn't really appreciate it at the time because, I placed at the state tournament. And I think at the time I hadn't even qualified yet. And that was something that, I wanted to do and I wanted to wrestle in college. So I felt, I don't know, I had to win. Otherwise my life wasn't going to go the way that I wanted it to go. But now it's like, I'm more like so thankful that, I got exposed to that, and I'm more appreciative of that now.
Yeah, so that's funny you bring that up because that was a mind shift for me. Because you talk about there's like you have goals, right? And so goals are great, but they can get in the way a little bit too. So for me, what I learned, I was very immature in high school. Like I was going to win the state tournament. I told myself I worked the hardest, and I did work really hard. And then when I couldn't win it, when I lost, I took my ball and went home, and that's why I didn't place. So it's a dangerous thing a little bit with goals. Like it can't be like an all-in thing. I think like you have to see yourself being a national champion and all those things. But what I learned, the only reason I placed at NCAs was I had this thought because I was too hard on myself before. The thought that allowed me to place at NCAs was that my senior year, I said, this is kind of going to sound weird because it kind of goes against like goal setting and stuff. I said to myself, I don't really care what happens. I said, yeah, I can win a national title. And I'd beaten both guys who actually were in the finals that year, so I'd beaten national champs. I said, it doesn't really matter. I said, all I'm going to do is do the best I can. It sounds a little lame. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to give it everything I can. And if I don't win, I don't win. But if I walk away and I gave the effort and I didn't quit, going back to that epiphany I had as a freshman, it sort of went back to that where I had to get away from like, I would write national champ every day and all those type of things that they tell you to do. And I was committed, but I also needed to free myself up a little bit. I needed to say to myself, hey, you know what? Go out there, have fun. That was one thing my coach was great at before the Penn State was doing have fun. Greg Strobel was doing have fun. It was like go out, have fun, and do everything you can to be the best you can be. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And so that helped me a lot, honestly, because I had lost a tough match in the quarters that obviously I think I should have won. I think if I had the old mindset, I would have just bagged it. But I said, you know what? I gave a great effort in that match. He was the better man. I gotta win this backside, and that's how I play. So you learn along the way, and that was one big epiphany for me. In terms of like figuring out how to make it in like how to get to that level. So yeah, I don't know how I got on that tangent, but
No, that's
No,
good.
that's
I
good.
love it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
What?
I look at Carlo's reaction on his face. Because so I know at Princeton you kind of had different, like you're the idealist, and I can't remember, like Dubuque might be the
yeah,
realist and Gray might be
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Carlo thinks he's a realist, but really he's a pessimist. So when you said have fun and like totally
yeah,
just being an idealist, like I'm an idealist, I just see Carlo just like
yeah,
smiling because he
optimist.
knows what I'm thinking. So
Yeah,
how
No,
do you
no,
yeah,
deal
no.
with like those?
I
Go
was
ahead.
thinking
Try to
sports
explain yourself.
psychology. I was like, no, he was just ahead of the game. He was into like sports psychology 20 years before everybody else was saying the same stuff. That's what I was
yeah.
thinking.
Strobel was ahead of his time, 100%.
Yeah.
Back in that day, it was, Iowa had, they were tapering and stuff, but they sent vibes that they just worked hard all the time. You didn't have flow and all this stuff. So people were in this mode of just like training crazy because they're trying to catch Iowa. My coach was different though, in that he would taper us. And it was weird because in high school I was watching Competitor Supreme and, like running around like a madman thinking like I need to work out all this time. And I just wore myself out. But he knew what he was doing. He was the Olympic coach too. They did well in that Olympics. I think it was 96. I think they
Yeah,
won. I think
they won
they
it,
did
I
well.
think.
Yeah, they did. They had a great Olympics. So he knew what he was doing, and he was a psych. He was. We used to call him Yoda. Like he could get in your
Yeah.
head and be like, "You're gonna win," and he'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna win." So he had definite powers that way. So you're right though. He was ahead of his time. One interesting story about tapering, he figured that out from marathon running. So what happens in marathon running is like you wouldn't run the marathon the day before the marathon, right? So your biggest runs are like I don't know the exact timing of this, but it's like 3 weeks before the competition.
Yeah.
Then the week of the competition, you hardly do anything. Like it's like you just got to get fresh. So that's how he trained me. And I went into events fresh for once, and it was like amazing for me. But it's funny, he transferred his experience in marathon running to wrestling, and it made it was huge for us in the postseason. And if you look at Princeton stats, there was on one of the message boards, we were the number one team that outplaced our seeds in the last like 5 years or something like that's somewhere in the message boards. But I really believe that's Strobel's influence just in terms of knowing how to taper people.
No,
I
that's
almost feel
that's
like
huge. Training cycles and knowing how to keep the mind and body fresh at the right time is so much more science. I don't know if I want to say scientific, but just crucial. It's crucial.
Yeah, they need breaks. This is hard. Funny
Yeah.
thing too about this team, like we had a great CKLV. I sent them home for a week for Thanksgiving. One whole week.
A whole
So
week.
whole week. So I sent them
Wow.
home for a week. Listen, an MMA training camp's 8 weeks. 8 weeks is an MMA training camp to get ready for a fight, generally speaking. We start September, October, November, December, January, February, March. 7 months.
Yeah.
So you got to build in these breaks. High school is a little different because it's less impact. You're not wrestling men every time. The best guys are just going to beat up the guys that don't know how to wrestle. So it's a little different in high school, but a college season, they need breaks 100%.
There's no easy matches. Yeah.
There's no easy matches. And you saw that with our freshmen. They had good for a couple first round matches, Lorenzo and Knox.
Yeah.
But then they kind of fell off because they don't know how to manage their emotions in a D1 tournament yet. So, yeah. So,
I mean, that's kind of
How,
the hard part that you don't really see in college because Carlo and I were talking about this. There's really only I feel like a few major tournaments that really college programs go to, but the national tournament is still a tournament. So it's
yeah.
like, how do you really prepare for what it's like to compete at a tournament if you're only wrestling a couple tournaments out of the year?
Well, it's routines. I mean, like I'll give some trade secrets away, I guess,
Yes.
but yeah. So everything's the same. You're going to compete. The way we do it is all our practices are different. I mean, I like to do a lot of variety. I break them into volume and I break them into intensity. Volume practices generally are longer goes. This is talking about live. Intensity or shorter goes situations, match situations, groups of three, nothing over 2 minutes probably. So regular practices vary a lot, but 2 days out, 1 day out, and the day of a competition are always the same exact thing, down to the minute. I mean, the minute. They know exactly what's going to happen in those situations, and it never changes. We do, and it starts in the preseason. So like we'll go. So 2 weeks out before our first competition, we act like we have competitions. So we bring in refs. They're going to come in on Saturday. We do the routine 2 days out, 1 day out. We literally bring the food, like the food they're going to eat when they compete. It's always the same. We have the same food order. So it's creating those routines that really, it doesn't matter what competition it is, honestly. And now with the 2 hour weigh-in for duels, that's huge because it mimics a tournament as well. But there's some opportunities. So we'll wrestle Cliff Keen, we wrestle Southern Scuffle, two big tournaments. Campbell duels is 3 duels, so that's like a tournament. We wrestle Drexel and Penn, so that's like a tournament as well. So when you get those multiple dual meets, but I think it's really about what you set up around a competition going out to about 2 days out. If those routines are the same, it's like sort of they become a little bit robots. They know they know what I'm going to do for them, and they know exactly what they have to do to get the weight off. So it becomes routine, but then it gets them ready mentally, like it's the same thing every single time. So that's really important. I think that's what allows us to do well at the end of the year is we never deviate from that ever.
Is that automation? Do you think it's key for the mentality? Just to know what to expect, and that brings consistency to their performance.
Absolutely. It's 100% routine. And we give them routine up like we have something we give them that they have to do 2 matches out. So it's laid out for them exactly what we're going to do. And we do things a little different. We work out before weigh-in. So like you're at a tournament, we do our pre-match workout before that. So everyone comes in 2 pounds over. So literally they're going to be 2 pound. We figure it out through the preseason and stuff, but they learn how to do it. They come in 2 pounds over. We do that pre-match warm up. I run it. They know exactly what's going to happen. They know exactly how much they're going to lose. They weigh in, and then we don't have to do the warm up that everyone does when the mats are full and everything. So that's a
Like
little
that.
different. And then be like 2 matches out, they have a little routine they do. So it's about routines, and in those routines, it's not like the things they're doing are really important. It's the putting their mind in the place of competition. I do these things physically. I'm ready to compete.
I hear a lot of
Um,
sports psychology mantras in some of the stuff you're saying. I mean, that's another thing. That's another sports psychology thing is the routine. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was a head case, to be honest with you. I probably should have won states. It's funny you bring that up because like there wasn't really access to sports psychology, but the amount of sports psychology books I've read as an athlete, not even as a coach, really helps me to help these guys. I mean, like it gets down to like guys listening to rap music or something hard. I got to tell them, I'm like, you got to calm down, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not, you're over aroused right now. You're going into a fight. You're listening to rap music. You're way too juiced up. Things are spinning way too fast. I was like, either don't listen to music. You got to calm down and get your breathing under control and sort of relax. Listen to chill out music. I'm like, put some Dave Matthews on if you know what Dave Matthews is.
DMB.
Like so yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I listen to I've been around sports psychologists and I kind of take a lot of what they've told our guys and I use it. But yeah, routine is really important. I would say a lot of our competitive success revolves around that routine that we do, just because everything else is like preparation in terms of I'm trying to get better, I'm trying to get better, I'm trying to get better, working on things, working on things. 2 days out, you're not working on things. You got what you got. We're getting ready. You got to make weight and you got to compete. We're not working on any technique. You're not trying to fix anything in those 2 days. High school's a little different. You're a little short on time. You have matches on Wednesdays a lot, midweek, and then weekends. So you kind of got to work through that if you're teaching the kids. But in college, it's the weekends. It's a long season, so we can afford to have 2 days out, 1 day out, be the same.
When
Yeah, that's
you're
kind
when
of.
you're in duels, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just gonna say because we have dual meet tomorrow, and Carl and I are talking like we have a not to disrespect who we're wrestling tomorrow, but we have a bigger duel next week, and we have a bigger
Yeah.
tournament the weekend after.
Mhm.
We have to train through this week,
Yeah.
so we're training through it.
We do that too. We did that too at Princeton, and we do that. We train through matches we might lose
Yeah,
in order to. But the routine would be the same, but I'd be a little tougher. Let's say there's a match on Saturday. A lot of times Monday and Tuesday isn't as intense as it would be if there wasn't a match, right? But let's say I think we need a little more, get it for the end of the year. I'll kill them on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday's usually light, and then we get into our routine, and they might be behind physically when we're in our routine and when they compete. So it's very similar to what you're saying. High school, I think you literally train through teams that you know you're going to beat. Like you can like literally the team you're wrestling is like practice, except for like a couple guys that might have some tough matches. But yeah, we do that too, actually, but not very often.
I mean, it sounds like you have a good rhythm to your training cycles and how to peak, how to do these little mini peaks throughout the season. What do you do when the competitions are sandwiched so closely together?
We don't really run into that. So we have control, right? So when we schedule, we have a lot of control. Um, like right now, we've had a lot of weeks off. There was one weekend we were supposed to compete. The team backed out, so we didn't have that weekend. I would have liked to compete that weekend, so it was a little bit longer. Things worked out just fine, but we stick to the routine. If we're in January and February, we have matches every weekend. Monday and Tuesday are very productive in terms of we're coming off a dual meet. I might be working broadly with some areas that the whole team may have had issues with. And then it's a lot of individual stuff, but those practices will be hard Monday and Tuesday. Wednesdays generally are a light day. And then we go to our routine. If we have a match on Sunday, we might practice pretty hard on Thursday. Then we're in our routine Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then we're off on Monday. So we pretty much stick to the competitive routine, no matter what. Once in a while, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday training might be a little amped up higher than I would if it was like a big dual meet on the weekend.
What are some signals that you maybe look at where you think, all right, like the guys need some time off, or do you go like, are you going like a 4-week training cycle, and then
Yeah.
after that training cycle, you give them that time off?
I'm super flexible. So one thing I haven't done great here just because it's been chaotic, but I was good at Princeton. We have it, but I haven't been checking it a lot. We do a daily tracker. So basically the kids get a questionnaire. It's like 5 or 6 questions. It literally takes them probably 10 seconds to figure out. It's multiple choice. So that gives me a good sense of where they are as a team and who they are individually. So the questions are pretty simple. I really look at two. I mean, I look at two very closely. The rest I kind of look at. What's your mental state? How sore are you? And so those two things tell me a lot about where the team is and also where individuals are. If a guy is like mental state is low, like 1, 2, 3, if there's like one day where they're a 1 and I keep an eye on it, if the next day they're like a 4, I'm not too concerned. But if there's like a 1 and then the next day they're a 2, I'll pull a kid in. Again, I haven't implemented that great right now just because it's been chaotic. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
But like today's a great example. We were going to go 3 sevens. There was going to be a 7 on the feet. There was going to be a 7 on the mat, feet and mat, and then there was going to be a 7 just on the mat, 7 minutes. That was going to be the live. So as the lives are going, the assistant Pat Brucky's there. They just didn't look great. You could feel a room, right? You can feel
Oh
the
yeah.
energy of a room.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't feeling it. We had a couple guys dinged up on the bikes from CKLV. I'm kind of looking around. It's sort of like they're kind of going through the motions. So I stopped and like I didn't do the last 7-minute go. I said to Brucky, I said, "Hey, I don't think I'm going to do this last 7-minute go." And he goes, "I agree." So it was just a matter of looking at the room and making an adjustment. And what'll happen is, I hope, but I'm guessing it will happen, is tomorrow's practice is going to be much more productive. Just
I
by
like that. I like how Brian and I have talked about this. Like the moment the wrestling looks not good quality, the live wrestling looks bad, just stop live wrestling. Like
yeah,
let's go back to refining and working on skill and drill and sparring, whatever we have to do.
yeah, no, that's good. And that takes a lot. I'm a planner too, so like I plan the year very broad. I've done this my whole career. So I have every year that I've ever coached, I have the training plans. So I plan the year very broad brushstrokes, when we're having events, when we're going to be going pretty hard, when we're going to pull back, the cycles. And then every week I plan the practice and I send it to the guys and they have it broad, and it's very broad. And then the day of, we get more specific about what exactly we're going to do. We have a meeting, talk about what we're going to do, and then we execute it. And so, yeah, those adjustments, I think they're important to make. And you just got to it's important to keep the pulse on your team. I think there's a lot of coaches that have a plan and they they just won't deviate from the plan. And I think that, that's not helpful. The other thing we do a lot is we're individualizing. So, I mean, I had a great event. I had a great example with an athlete, recently. He was hurt 4 weeks ago, and he really won, or whatever Duke duel was. He was hurt. He wasn't hurt so bad he couldn't wrestle, but he was hurt, and he wanted to wrestle in this Duke duel really bad. And his back was bothering him, and I'm keeping an eye on him, and he's just not ready, right? Like I'm thinking about CKLV is what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about the Duke duel. So pretty cool about gaining trust. I pulled him aside and I said, "Hey, I watched you today, and you're just not ready." And he gets upset. I'm like, "You got to just trust me on this. Just trust me. You're not ready." So, he wants to do Nebraska now, and he can wrestle, but it's not good. I said, "No, you can't go." So I pulled him back, but then he places at CKLV pretty high. So it's like, and now he trusts me. Like he's all in now. His back's great. It's not
Did he
bothering
place
him.
really high?
He didn't place really high, but he placed way higher than he was supposed to place.
Okay.
So
I was trying to narrow down who it might have been.
it was, yeah.
Pull up the brackets real quick. No, it's okay. It's all right.
Hey, so there's some, what is it called? HIPAA. I'm not allowed to talk about injuries about specific. I don't know, but yeah. So
no, you're right.
But he you just individualize things. You got to keep your eye. It's hard though. You got to keep your eyes on all the guys, and so that was a good individualization moment where it helped him a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I think,
how'd you guys?
Go ahead, Carlo.
I don't know if I'm going to go off on a tangent here, or if this is going to be, I don't know, but I want to talk about Cliff Keen. How'd you guys do that? That was magic. And it wasn't like one person or one match. It was like the entire team, multiple matches. What happened? What was the magic sauce there?
That's a great question. I don't know.
I knew week off, I'm sure helped a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
A week off.
Definitely. So
maybe that, who knows? I don't know.
I knew we were good, right? So I knew we were good. And as a coach, you guys know this. You have your team, and they're wrestling each other all the time. And you're like, yeah, I think they might be good. I'm not really sure. Like, one guy's doing good, one guy's doing bad because one guy's beating a guy. So you never really know. But I'm feeling good about the technique they're doing. I think the fight's good, their conditioning's good. So we go into this thing, and honestly, we're really pretty good at every weight. And I felt like we could have a really good performance, and I think just it worked. Like it's one of those things where we have a great training plan. We have great assistant coaches. I mean, Pat Bruckey and Ryan Deacon are just. I mean, they're gonna be phenomenal. Like, I mean, they're young, but they're exceptional coaches, and the kids are bought in. We put it in front of them like, hey, you should believe in yourselves. You can do these things. We're hyping them up, and I do believe they can do it. And I just think they really believed in what we were doing. To be honest with you, they believed in themselves, and they believed in the training plan that we put in front of them, and they were having fun. Honestly, like. I hate that's so cliche.
Did you wave your hand in front of them, like have fun?
Have fun. Hey, Nico, win this tournament. Maybe I have a little Strobel in me. I'm not sure. But yeah, so they were just ready to go. And I think that it's funny that you said you guys probably can relate to this. I think we should have done better. Like, so there's a few spots.
I mean, yeah, there's a couple ways probably.
Yeah. So but that's how you think as a coach, like Nico winning it. I'm like, yeah, that's of course he's supposed to win this thing. But it's pretty hype when he beats,
you expected
Ramos.
Nico to win that bracket?
Honestly, like, I'll be straight with you. I thought he could win the bracket. I also thought Tyler Knox could win the bracket. And I also thought Lorenzo could win the bracket. To be perfectly honest, and Daniel was in a tough weight, Cardenas. So I thought that was a
great match too, though.
Yeah, he had great matches. Yeah, he had great matches, but like 57 was a weight where it was sort of like there was landmines all over the place at that weight. So like Daniel was, I thought if he would have won it, would I have been surprised? I wouldn't have been surprised. He beat some really good guys, but that's a hard road to haul when there's that many good guys. There's
Yeah.
just like landmines. So, but to go back to be grateful, honestly, like I was really happy with the performance. When we came into practice today, it was a great practice because we needed to know what we needed to work on. And the great thing I could tell them is I was like, there's no major problems. It's not like we don't know how to get off bottom. It's not like we can't finish a takedown. It's not like we don't know how to ride someone. It's all these little intricacies that we have to work on, very small details. And so that's when you know you're working with a good team.
What struck me about the team, and again, it wasn't an individual. That's why I was kind of like amazed at the level jump. Was they like for me? I kind of look at when kids are competing, like, do they pass the eye test? Like every single wrestler passed the eye test. They're dogs. They're fighting through every position, chain wrestling through the position. Like you said, they're getting off bottom. Like they're deep into the match. They're still there, working to score. It was just impressive. Nico was a dog every single match.
Nico's run was like, well, for me, out of all the guys, I guess because he won them all, but I mean, but like I guess it was the most solid, is what I'd say. Like there wasn't a match where I was like, man, we slipped by that one. It was like he won every match. Like it wasn't like a whoa, that was crazy. There was nothing crazy in any match. He just was solid as a freaking rock and got the wins. So I love that about him. There wasn't big wins, but his weight, he had to go through a gauntlet of ranked guys. Like you're not going to win major decisions and stuff when you have that many ranked guys in your weight. So I really like that about Nico. He was just solid. That's reflective of the weight a little bit. The weight's wide open. I mean, if you look at the rankings, people are like, Flo had him at number 1, and people are like, that's a little crazy. I'm like, is it really? Like the weight is wide open. Like these rankings could change next week and be turned upside down. So the weight is interesting where it's anyone's weight, I think, and it might as well be Nick's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but you might be the first coach in history to coach national champions at 2 different schools at the same weight.
I hope so. Let's try to make that happen for sure.
I teach history. I don't know the history on that. Yeah. But I feel like it's true unless I'm proven otherwise.
Hey, that sounds cool to me. I'm down for that.
A head coach at 2 places with a national champ at the same weight.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple coaches probably, but I won't. I'm not going to take your.
No, you can't.
Kel Sanderson, Iowa State.
At the same weight? What weight?
I'm sure he has some national champs there.
That's a great question. This is a great question.
Varner was a national champ.
At what? Was that 84s, 97s?
Yeah, he's got some national champs.
And then who won it in 2000? Was 2011, 2012?
Oh, you're
saying transfer with him?
You're saying the next year. Yeah.
Oh, that's the wrinkle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I like that.
That's
I like where your head's at. I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
Let's make some history.
Yeah. So we've been going for almost an hour. I got a couple more questions, if you don't mind.
I'm good.
So I'm just going to preface this. I'm kind of more joking, but Grant Leith is a friend of the show. He's been on a couple times. Now, he came on. He's my boy. Like, he's a pretty cool dude. He said, he got all excited. Chris Ayres, new head coach, like awesome. Like I get to work with him. I just worked with Cole. Like I get to learn from him. And he said, day one, you know what's coming. You fired him day one.
No, I didn't fire him. I said, hey, look, I'm not going to get into it. I didn't fire him.
No, it's okay. No,
I might have demoted him a little bit if we're going to be perfectly honest. It was hard. Like I had to come in. I had to bring in some of my own people.
Yeah.
The problem was I had a relationship with Deacon that went back a little bit, and I knew him pretty well. So when I came in and Deacon, like coming in before I even met Grant, Deacon was helping me transition just because we had that relation and we had talked and it was pretty clear that he was going to stay and he was pretty confident he wanted to stay. So that's pretty clear. So he was going to be my right-hand man, basically. And then so I knew with the other position, I knew I had some ideas and then it ended up being Pat Bruckey, which was huge for me because He's the best leader I've ever had, ever, coaching wise. Like, he was amazing as a captain. So when he said he was interested, that was a done deal. And then, so Grant was a little dramatic. I wanted him to take the third. I wanted to take the third. I wanted him to take the third position. I had offered him the third position, and he was between the third position and Tarleton. And I think it was a pretty tough decision for him, honestly. Like, we had talked a lot. I wanted Grant to stay, but boy,
Yeah.
I give
He
him
told us
credit.
that at the end of the show, though.
He
He's
did.
like, he
He
actually
did.
actually
He
wanted
said he
to
offered
stay.
me a job.
I'm like,
He
dude,
just
that
wanted to make it
changes the
dramatic.
story completely.
Yeah, he just
did.
trying to make me look bad. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No, he wanted to make it
but,
dramatic.
hey, I'll give Grant some credit, man. He's got some, he's got some courage to take that job on. I appreciate that. To have the confidence in yourself to take over that program with what you have to do. I think it's awesome. When I offered him that job, and I didn't pitch it really hard just because that's not what I do. I'm not I just give you here's the situation. Here's what's good about it. I'll even tell you what's bad about it. I do that in recruiting too. But like, I really respected the fact that he was thinking about taking this other Tarleton job. I had a similar situation at Princeton when I took over. It was not in a good place. It existed though, so I don't know if that's better or worse. Like, it existed, but it needed so much work. But he's starting from scratch. So I really appreciate Grant and like him taking that job, because that's a big job. And I love that he thinks he's going to kill it. And I think he will kill it.
Yeah, for sure. They have to do a lot of fundraising, I think, between
Yep.
now and he's trying to do it by next year, which, dude, it takes a lot of time. But if he could pull it off, there's a lot of resources in Texas.
Yeah, he could do it. It's like the only game in the Bay, in this part of California. We're the only game in town. So I think there's a big advantage in that. And so I think if he could turn some stones, I think he can get there. It's like one of those things where the money's there, the people probably care. And if you find the people that are passionate about it, I think that they'll jump on.
Yeah, for sure. Another question. So you've actually changed my mind on this. Again, as another interview, you were talking about, I think somebody asked you, like, if you're going to get your kids into wrestling. And I think, I don't remember the exact story, but how you told it. But I think it was like, you're bringing your son to practice, but your daughter is also watching.
Yeah.
And I think you asked your wife, like, do you think she'd be into this? And you asked her, she's like, yeah, I've been waiting, for you to say, like, for the longest time, like, I've been kind of a traditionalist, with wrestling, and, especially when you have to wrestle girls, like, it's just uncomfortable when you're a young man. But it's kind of completely I've done a complete, like, 180. It's like, dude, women's wrestling is the way. It's like, why wouldn't I want possibly my future daughter to not get the same thing that I got from the sport, and I think those were your words.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. No, yeah, that was an interesting moment for me. And we talk about, saving wrestling or promoting or growing wrestling. Like, you had one woman, like, you had her parents, you had her grandparents, you had her aunts and uncles. It's amazing. Even in our room, my wife simply, like, being more inclusive and pushing for women to come to the club. Like, half of our room is, I think I mentioned this earlier, half of our room is women that maybe weren't there before. So, or girls. And so I love it. I mean, girls see and to be honest, they're more appreciative. They really are, like, from my experience, like, because they didn't have the opportunity, at least in New Jersey, like, because they didn't have the opportunity and people weren't going out of their way to, like, say, hey, like, we want to have this space for you so you can get the benefit of wrestling as well. It's just so cool to see, like, how appreciative they are of it. So yeah, that's awesome that I was the same way. And you saw that interview. I mean, I was a rockhead, brought my son to practice. He's younger than my daughter. She's coming and watching. And then we have to ask her if she wants to wrestle for her to want to do it. So that's pretty neat that you brought that up. That's awesome.
And then my last question, and it's kind of just the same question I kind of asked just to everybody that's on. It's something that I feel like I've gotten a lot better about, but how do you kind of have that work-life balance? And especially, when you have a family and especially coming in crazy, just all these things going on at once with the Stanford program and this new job, how do you take the time to balance your work and your life and your family and all that?
Well, so my son wrestles, my daughter wrestles, my wife is the director of ops at the RTC. We have no work-life balance. Life and work are the same thing, and I freaking love it. I get to do this, it's hard. Like, I mean, I'm kind of I'm a little joking there. You do get run down. I mean, for me, it's every single weekend. There is not weekends where I don't. I mean, if there's a weekend where I'm not recruiting, fundraising, or competing, or with my kids wrestling, that's a miracle, to be honest with you. So honestly, like I've given up on the work-life balance piece. I don't have any hobbies. I cook. I love cooking. Wrestling is our life, and it's my whole family's life. So, yeah. So, and getting here, like, and it's so cool though. Like I get to do this. Wrestling people are the best. They're the absolute best. And so I get to meet just tons of wrestling people all the time. Sometimes they're the worst, but,
Yeah.
but most, the majority of them are really awesome. And so it's really about all those people that you meet. So, I go to a tournament. It's not work. I'm a coach. Are you kidding me? I'm at a tournament helping these guys achieve their dreams. I'm seeing the people that I've been friends with forever that I haven't seen in maybe a little while. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a work-life balance, to be honest with you. I'm curious, what are some of the answers to that question? Can you give me
Yeah, I'll even shout them out.
Help me out here.
Yeah, so McCade Ford and Brock Zackrell, they've kind of given me some good tips. Talking about, when it's time to be home, just be home. Like Brock Zackrell, he actually designed an app. It was Weight Cut Wingman, and it's like an app that actually like helps you like manage your weight.
Oh,
and
cool.
he tested it out at Clarion, and it's something that even I had some of our high school guys download it. But it's like, dude, how do you work on that app? You also are married, and you just, I think you just had a kid, and then you're also coaching. He's like, well, I just wake up earlier, and from whatever time until my kid wakes up, I work on the app. And then when my kid wakes up and we wake up, then I spend time with the family, and then I go to work. And then when I come home, I just try to be home. McCade Ford actually told me a story. He's at like a concert or something with I think like Mark Branch and like their friends and stuff. And he goes in the bathroom where it's quiet because he's calling a recruit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So like his story is a little bit different, but I think it's just trying to for me, I think it's just trying to be present where you're at and just being there. And like if somebody's texting you, like even right now, I'm sure I got maybe three text messages and a bunch of like, messages through Facebook and all of our club stuff. It's like, all right, well, I'll deal with it when I get to it. Like it might be an emergency for them and you kind of got to read the situation, but just again, trying to be present with who you're at. I think go ahead.
No, I'd say on that side of things, like the messaging and stuff, as you've seen, like I'm not afraid to not get things done, just because I could work 24 hours a day, every single day and not sleep and still not do everything that I want to do to get the program where I want it to be. So I just say to myself, I'm going to miss stuff. That's just the way it's going to be. And if I miss stuff, I miss stuff, especially like messages I get a lot of messages. And it's hard to keep track of everything. Like you said, it's like on multiple platforms. And so, I guess that's part of my work-life balance is I'm not afraid to let, if it slips away and it's not that important, like it's what happens, I know what's important though, and I get those things done. So I guess that's kind of helped my life balance.
I needed that, man. Cause like, I mean, I don't know. I've been to the Carlo a couple times. I feel like sometimes it's like, I have to do everything a particular way. And if I don't get it done, I just, I'm kind of on myself pretty hard. But I think just trying to let go. And like you said, focus on the important things and, the messaging and the tech, like just kind of deal with it as you deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Honestly, I think it's probably the most I've been doing this for forever now, I'm almost 50. And that's probably early in my career. It was like I would get worked up if I missed something and I'd be upset with myself. But the fact of the matter is I just can't do it. I can't. There's too many people in my, you know, in my sphere that want to connect with me that it's impossible. I can't keep up with everything. But the important things like even this podcast, like was supposed to happen, didn't happen. I don't know exactly what happened, but hey, it happened at a more perfect time because we had CKLV.
There we go.
So there was more to talk about. That was what I would call a very good screw up. So I
Yeah,
get to this
absolutely.
moment and I'm like, this is a better podcast. Like before I would have been rattled. I'd be thinking about other stuff, but we had some great things happen and now we can talk about some better things. So, it was a good screw up on my part, I guess, but
Yeah. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Chris. I appreciate
thanks.
it, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
thank you
awesome.
so much.
Cool. Great seeing you. And I'm sure I'll see you guys down the road. If you need anything,
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to be at the California State Tournament, I'm assuming,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So I got to figure everything out. That's funny. You'll have to talk about that online. I'm starting to get an idea of like
Yeah.
where I need to be. I'm trying to, like California has it could be argued the best state of wrestling in the country. It's like, and if we could keep these kids in state, we'd be really, really good. So yeah.
I'll give you there's a couple tips if you go to the state tournament. For one, it's kind of a madhouse. So if you get like a space to kind of be by yourself, I think for me that there's a lot of value in that. They do like, man, why am I blanking on what it's called? Trailers in the back.
Oh,
So
really?
like people tailgate like straight up.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
playing cornhole. Like we have
That's
our
cool.
trailer set up. And it's super nice. So I think if you want to make an impression, I mean, you show up, where people are tailgating just because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
St. John Bosco's there, Gilroy's there, Selma's notorious. They get after it down there. Yeah.
That's a great piece of advice. I will take you up on that. Is it 3 days or 2 days?
3 days.
3.
Wow.
Yeah.
3 days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's new. It just happened like that a couple years ago.
Okay. I thought it could be just because it's such a big state, one division. So
Yeah.
all right, cool. That's
Do
some
you plan
good
on going
advice.
to you plan on going to Doc B?
When's Doc B?
January 5th and 6th, I want to say.
We'll probably be there. I mean, I'm at Ironman this weekend. I think one of our guys at Beast the next weekend, and another guy's at Powerade. So we'll probably be at Doc B. Unless
Never
we have a
ends.
dual. Never ends. I love it though. Let's go.
Yeah.
The flights east are a little more rough though than they used to be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we're okay. The flights back are nice with the time change. But yeah, so hey, it was great meeting with you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys down the road.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
Thank you
good,
so
Chris.
much.
Thank you.
Later.
See ya.